It is the second night of the outage, and you finally get to test the thing you spent good money on. You carried it in from the garage, that solar generator with the big number printed across the front, the one the listing promised would run almost anything. You plug in the coffee maker because at this point you would trade a lot for a hot cup, and the unit does something you did not expect. The fans spin up, the screen flickers, and either it shuts the outlet off completely or the coffee takes twice as long as it should, while a number on the display sits stubbornly below what the box promised. You check the spec again. 1800 watts, it said. 2600 with some mode switched on. So why is it fighting a 1200 watt coffee maker? Here's what the listing will not tell you, and it is the open secret of this whole category. On most of these machines, that big number is not the power you actually get. 3 of these 5 brands hit it the same quiet way, by lowering the voltage, which is a polite way of saying they hand your appliance less than it asked for and call it a feature. If you have ever paid extra for the biggest number on the shelf and wonder what it really bought you, stay with me. One of these units costs more than our benchmark and delivers less real power. And one of them, the most famous name on the list, prints an honest number and gets quietly beaten by a brand you have never heard of. The words to hold on to are continuous output. By the end, they will be the only number on the box you trust. 10 years ago, a portable power station was a lead-heavy box or a lithium-ion brick that a rental company would not trust past a few hundred charges. The whole category changed when the industry moved to lithium iron phosphate, the chemistry usually written as LFP. Those cells shrug off 3,000 to 6,000 charge cycles instead of 500, which is why nearly every unit worth buying today promises a 10-year life. That was a real leap, and it happened fast, roughly between 2022 and 2025. But once every serious brand had the same good battery, they needed something else to fight over on the product page. So the war moved to 2 numbers, and both of them mislead the average buyer. The first is charge speed, 0 to 80% in 45 minutes, which sounds thrilling and matters far less than people think. The second is the output number, and that is where the trouble starts. Building a bigger inverter, the part that turns battery power into wall power, costs real money and adds weight. Most of these 1 kilowatt hour class units settled at 1500 or 1800 watts of genuine continuous output, and there they mostly stayed. But 1800 watts does not win a spec table against a competitor shouting 2600. So the brands reach for a trick. Instead of building a bigger inverter, they wrote software that lets the existing inverter fake a bigger number. And each company gave that trick its own trademark. You will meet all of them today. The people who see through this first are not the buyers. They are the repair benches. The technicians who open these units when they fail, the installers who wire them into rigs, the tear-down community that films what is actually inside. They do not read the front of the box. They read the continuous rating, the warranty card, and the question nobody on the sales page wants asked, which is what happens the day this sealed plastic brick stops turning on. Because that day is coming, and it decides more about your purchase than any number on the front. To see why the boost trick is a trick, you need the difference between 3 numbers the listings deliberately blur together. Every one of these machines advertises up to 3 power numbers, and they are not the same kind of number. The first is continuous output. That is the wattage the unit holds hour after hour without complaint, set by the size of the inverter inside. On the units we are comparing, that figure is either 1500 or 1800 watts, full stop. The second is surge. That is a brief spike, a second or two, that lets a motor or a compressor kick on. A fridge that runs at 150 watts might pull 900 for a heartbeat when it starts, and a 3000 watt surge rating exists to swallow that heartbeat. Surge is honest and useful, and it tells you nothing about what the unit sustains. Then there is the third number, the one on the front of the box. EcoFlow calls it X Boost. Bluetti calls it Power Lifting. Anker calls it SurgePad. Toolman calls it Beyond. 4 names, 1 trick. 3 of these brands, EcoFlow, Anker, and Bluetti, put that boosted number on the front of the box as the headline. Vitamin has the same feature, but tells you plainly what it is, and still prints its honest 1500. And Jackery skips the trick entirely. Here is what all 4 of those modes actually do. Wall power in North America arrives at about 120 volts, and watts equal volts times amps. When you plug in an appliance that wants more watts than the inverter can supply, a normal power station simply shuts the outlet off to protect itself. These boost modes do something quieter instead. They lower the voltage. If the inverter can only push 1800 watts and you connect a 2500 watt heater, the unit drops the voltage from 120 down toward 100. And at that lower voltage, the heater can only pull about 1800 watts. The outlet stays on, the breaker does not trip, and the marketing gets to print a bigger number. But your appliance is now getting less power than it was built for. A heater runs cooler, a hairdryer blows weaker, a kettle takes longer, and here's the part the box never mentions. The devices people most want the boost for, the space heaters and cooktops and hairdryers, are exactly the resistive loads that suffer most from a voltage drop because their whole job is turning volts into heat. Worse, anything with sensitive electronics should never be fed reduced voltage at all, which is why every one of these brands buries a disclaimer telling you not to use boost mode with them. So when you read the front of one of these boxes, ignore the boosted number. The figure that tells you what the machine really does every time in any weather is continuous output. That is the measuring stick for everything that follows. Start with the one most people already own or nearly bought, the Jackery Explorer 1000 version 2. The assumption buyers bring to Jackery is that the most famous name must be the most powerful. It is not. This unit holds 1070 watt hours and puts out 1500 watts continuous with a 3000 watt surge. As of August 2026, it lists at $799 and usually sells between about $400 and $650 with several thousand reviews behind it. What it does genuinely well is honesty and portability. Jackery does not play the boost game at all. No voltage dropping mode. So the 1500 watts it promises is 1500 watts you actually get. And at just under 24 pounds, it is the lightest unit here by a wide margin, which for a solo camper loading a car matters more than a spec sheet admits. Measured against our benchmark, the EcoFlow Delta 3, the gap is revealing. The Delta 3, which typically sells for less than the Jackery, delivers 1800 watts of continuous output to the Jackery's 1500. So the best known brand gives you the least real power of any branded unit on this list and often charges more for it. Owners praise the app and the reliability, and the lightweight wins loyalty. Though many note that Jackery only accepts Jackery's own panels, which quietly locks you in. On the repair side, the pattern technicians describe on the larger Jackery models is worth knowing. An inverter that fails with the AC outlets going dead, while the USB ports still work, resolved by warranty replacement rather than repair, because these units are not made to be open. The catch is simple. You're paying for the name and the low weight, not for power. Buy it if portability and simplicity top your list. Skip it if you want the most watts or capacity for your money. If a straight side-by-side like that just saved you from overpaying for a badge, subscribing is how the next one finds you. That brings us to the unit everything else is measured against, the EcoFlow Delta 3 in its 1024 watt-hours classic form. The assumption is that EcoFlow is the tech leader, and on charging, that is fair. It reaches full in under an hour and 80% in about 45 minutes, the fastest here, and the app is the best in the category. It puts out a true 1800 watts continuous with a 3600 watt surge. As of August 2026, the classic version lists at $599, but has sat around 450 to 500 for months, which makes it remarkably one of the cheapest ways to get genuine 1800 watts. That value is why it is our benchmark. But the Delta 3 is also today's clearest example of the trick. Its panel advertises X-Boost up to 2600 watts, and EcoFlow's own listings cannot keep the number straight. Some say 2200, some 2600, because it is not a fixed capability. It is the voltage dropping we already took apart. Treat the 1800 as real and the boost as marketing. The honest catch is capacity. At 1024 watt hours, this is the smallest battery on the list, so it charges fastest but empties fastest too, which is why EcoFlow pushes its expandable ecosystem so hard. Owners love the speed and the fast switchover, and the 5-year warranty reassures. Technicians rate EcoFlow among the more responsive brands on replacements, which, as you will see, is the spec that quietly matters most. Buy the Delta 3 if fast charging and a strong ecosystem are your priorities, and you can live with a smaller battery or plan to expand. Skip it if you want maximum runtime in one box. Now the value play, and the one almost nobody has heard of, the Vitoman Flash Speed 1500. The assumption people bring to an unknown brand is that cheap means cheap hardware. Here that is mostly wrong, and the exception is the interesting part. This unit packs 1548 watt hours, the most capacity on our list, with 1500 watts continuous and a 3000 watt surge for about $700 as of August 2026, though it swings between 600 and 900. Do the math and it lands near 39 cents per watt hour against roughly 70 to 80 cents for the famous brands. In raw storage per dollar, nothing here touches it. It uses the same LFP cells, the same 3000 cycle life, and charges nearly as fast as the EcoFlow. It even has its own boost trick, V Beyond, and to the brand's credit, its own listing describes it plainly as lowering the voltage to run loads over 1500 watts. Against the Delta 3 benchmark, the Vitoman gives you half again as much battery for a similar or lower price, but it gives up two things, and one of them matters more than it looks. It is heavy, around 40 pounds, and the app and interface are a step behind. The bigger catch, though, is not the hardware, it is the coverage behind it. Vitoman's own manual puts the warranty at 24 months, and even that requires you to register to unlock the second year. And yet the marketing splashes a 5-year figure across the website. The three big brands here back their units with a real 5 years. In a sealed product you cannot fix locally, that gap between 2 years and 5 is the whole ball game. Buy the Vitoman if capacity per dollar is what you care about and you accept the weight and the shorter coverage. Skip it if you want a polished app or the safety of a large support network. For the buyer whose real fear is the day it breaks, the Anker SOLIX C1000 answers a different question. The assumption people bring to Anker is charger cable reliability scaled up, and that instinct is right. This unit holds 1056 watt hours, outputs 1800 watts continuous with a 2400 watt SurgePad, and Anker wraps it in what it calls infinite power construction with a 5-year warranty. As of August 2026, it lists at $999, the highest sticker here, but it drops hard and often, sometimes into the 400s. So the price you pay depends entirely on timing. What it does well is durability and support. It is built like a tool, charges 0 to 80 in about 43 minutes, and stays compact. Against the Delta 3 benchmark, the Anker matches the 1800 watts of continuous output and roughly the capacity, so on paper the two are close. And SurgePad is the same voltage trick as X-Boost under another name. The difference the Anker is really selling is not on the front of the box. It is the 5-year warranty and a company big enough to still answer the phone in year 4. Owners report excellent build and fast charging, with the main gripe being that the wild price swings make it hard to know if you paid a fair price. On the repair side, a dead port on one of these units typically ends in a warranty replacement rather than a fix. An Anker size and warranty length are exactly what you want when that day comes. The catch is capacity and price volatility. You are not buying more watts or storage than the benchmark. You are buying the promise that the box will be supported. Buy the Anker if longevity and warranty backing matter most and you can catch it on sale. Skip it at full sticker or if you want the most capacity. That leaves the unit that quietly makes the whole argument for us, the Bluetti AC180P. It replaced the older AC180, which Bluetti discontinued in 2026. So this is the version you can actually buy today. The assumption a buyer brings is that a mid-price brand must sit in the middle on everything. It does not. This unit holds 1,440 watt hours and outputs a full 1,800 watts continuous. With a 2,700 watt power lifting mode, the voltage trick again, best used only for pure heating loads. As of August 2026, it sells for about $649, down from a $999 list. And here's where the thesis lands. Put the Bluetti next to the Jackery we opened with. The Jackery lists at $799 and gives you 1,500 watts of continuous output and 1,070 watt hours. The Bluetti sells for about $150 less and gives you 300 more watts of continuous output and nearly 400 more watt hours of capacity. So the quieter brand delivers more real power and more battery for less money. And the difference is not hardware quality. It is that Jackery spends on being the name you already know, on retail shelves and lightweight and app polish, while Bluetti spends on the inverter and the cells. That is the marketing premium in one sentence. The Bluetti's own catches are real. It is heavy at around 35 pounds, and its power lifting number is the same voltage trick as everyone else's. So treat the 1800 as the true figure. Owners rate it a strong value. It can expand with extra batteries if you need more runtime, and Bluetti backs it with a 5-year warranty and, in documented cases, honors it with replacements. Buy the Bluetti if you want the most continuous output and capacity per dollar from an established brand with real coverage. Skip it if the weight is a deal breaker. Put all 5 together and the pattern is impossible to miss. 4 of them offer a boosted number from the same voltage trick under 4 different trademarks. 3 of them printed on the front as the headline, and the most famous one simply prints less. Not one of those front panel numbers told you what actually mattered. Here is the dimension almost no buyer weighs, and it is the one that most often ruins the purchase 2 or 3 years in. Every unit we discuss is a sealed plastic box. When the part that fails is the inverter board, or the battery management system, or even a single USB port, you are not looking at a repair. These are not built to be serviced. Opening the case voids the warranty. Spare boards are not sold to the public, and no local shop stocks parts. The common failure the repair forums describe is quietly alarming. The AC outlets go completely dead, while the USB and DC ports keep working, often with no error code, and often after the unit sat fully charged in a garage for months, because storing LFP cells at 100% stresses them. When that happens, your only real option is the manufacturer, which means the single most important spec on any of these machines is not printed in large type anywhere on the front. It is the length of the warranty and the odds that the company is still there and still answering when you need it. Line them up and the picture is stark. EcoFlow, Anker, Bluetti, and Jackery all stand behind their units for 5 years. The cheap Vitoman, the one with the best hardware value on the list, covers you for 2 and markets a 5 it does not deliver. This is where the money at the top of the market is actually justified, not in a bigger boosted number, but in 5 years of coverage and the corporate mass to honor it. And it is the real risk hiding under the cheapest option. The Vitoman's hardware is fine and its price is excellent. But if that sealed brick dies in year 3 and the warranty ran out in year 2, you own a 40-pound paperweight because there was never a way to fix it yourself. So circle back to the big boosted number on the thumbnail. It was never what decided whether you made a good purchase. In this category, you are not really buying watts. You are buying a promise that the box turns on in 5 years, and only some of these brands are big enough and cover you long enough to keep it. Go back to that second night of the outage and the coffee maker that would not run right. The assumption that put you there is the one the whole industry encourages, that the biggest number on the front is the best machine in the room. Everything we walk through dissolves it. The famous brand printed the smallest real number and charged the most. The unknown brand printed an honest number and gave you the most battery, then quietly gave you the shortest warranty. And 3 of the 5 hit their headline figure only by starving your appliance of voltage and hoping you would not notice. The words to carry out of this are the ones we started with: continuous output, not the surge, not the boost, not the trademark a brand invented to make an 1800 watt inverter sound like 2700. The continuous rating is the only figure on the box that behaves the same on the second night of an outage as it did in the showroom. So before you buy any of these, do 2 small things. Find the continuous output number, the one printed small, and ignore the boosted one printed large. Then read the warranty, the real one in the manual, not the one on the banner, and ask whether the name beside it will still be around to honor it when this sealed box inevitably stops turning on. Get those 2 right, and the badge on the front stops mattering at all. Next time we take on the other thing every full-timer overpays for, getting online from the middle of nowhere, Starlink against cellular, against the boosters nobody needs. That one will surprise you.